And here it is, Gargura is coming to Genshin Impact, an absolutely reliable leak from Kokomi Clan. So there you guys go. Right, so obviously now that I've debated everyone, let's actually talk about the real issue, and that is Genshin Impact leaks. So I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I'm not only subscribed to Genshin channels and stuff on my Twitter and YouTube and so on, but I mean, there is a bit of Genshin content that you'd like to watch. And the first thing that I've seen in the last day or so is just an absolute bombardment of leaks. So a lot of the upcoming characters have been spoiled. The fact how the Dendro archon sort of looks like has been spoiled, and I kind of sort of really dislike this, and that's because of the fact that we're not even close to Sumeru yet. There's still like 51 days and so on. But a lot of the hype, a lot of what sort of keeps you playing the game, there's that anticipation of something new happening. That's kind of spoiled. So now it's almost like instead of waiting for the new content to drop, you get spoiled on the new content. So you're just gonna have to now wait even longer for new content that's to be leaked so that you can, I don't know. It's just such a weird situation, and it really doesn't help anyone. I know a lot of people might be like, well, I need leaks so that as an F2P player I can guard my precious Primo Gems against the corporate greed of HoYoverse, and it's just like, come on. I mean, we've had characters, Tartaglia rerunning 3 times, we've had Venti rerunning 3 times. At the end of the day, you will find out which characters are good or not, even if you don't pull for them on day one. It's just a pure FOMO gimmick that people are trying to delude themselves in. So there, in my mind, there's no real justification to leaks, and the people that have done it have, yeah, they just kind of spoiled the mood for every one of us. So there's no real exciting thing left to sort of talk about the future of Genshin, because I already know how the Dendro archon and stuff looks like. So let's talk a bit about this, since it's also controversial. The Dendro archon having a lolly body type, I really couldn't care. For me, the only thing that matters is how is she going to perform in combat. I do think if HoYoverse, if this is not the final design, I do hope they reconsider the design, because characters that are smaller like Lee, Diona and so on have trouble moving, they've got trouble in terms of their range, and that's just because of the character height and so on. So a fix to that might be kind of cool, but if it's not, then well, I mean, she looks cute, she looks kind of cool, so we'll definitely try and pick her up, if assuming we've I don't really quit the game before then. So let's talk about the bigger controversial issue, and that is the fact that the leaked characters from Sumeru are not doing enough in terms of representation. Now, my very quick thought on this is how people can blame a company for stuff that they're not even supposed to see is really beyond me. I don't think there's any sort of consistent way you could justify that. So you've got a good cause, more representation, but you're blaming it on leaked content. So that in and of itself is not really consistent. It's not a very consistent way of thinking and so on. Representation is important, but I think people are definitely jumping the gun. But I think there's a bigger issue that's sort of at play here that a lot of people don't really recognize. And that issue is HoYoverse selectively listening to its player base. Now, this is very important. When we go to HoYoverse, so people like myself and other people, and we give feedback and so on, there is a general consensus that HoYoverse creates content only if that content would actually end up giving them profit. So the majority of their revenue base actually sits in China and in Japan. We know this from the revenue sales that you could publicly see and so on. And the question is always, is any suggestion that we are going to put forth, even if we've spent a lot of money on the game, going to be consistent with their strategy to make more and more money? So if I want more endgame, but a lot of people are complaining about nerfing enemies in the overworld, you can bet your bottom dollar HoYoverse is going to listen to those players instead, because if they can keep those players, there's a higher likelihood that they're going to spend, because people like myself that have spent money on the game, well, I mean, you've already spent the money, so there's no real value to actually having you around or to actually even listening to you, because you've already given what you need to give, so now we need new players to do so. So when it comes to listening to feedback, I think HoYoverse is very selective in it, and unfortunately the implications of this is that stuff like representation and like these other issues are actually going to be put to the side because they don't have a real profit sort of incentive. Conversely, if representation were to double HoYoverse's sales, I can bet you they would immediately put in as much as they can. This is the sad reality. Whatever social issues and causes and things we think and hold dear to us is not what the company holds dear to themselves, and that is why I think the issue of representation should be handled in a different way. And this is why I made that other video that I said, well, you know what, I'm gonna sort of really throttle my spending in Genshin because this is not a company that really has my interest at heart, so I'd rather spend that money and effort towards projects and so on that would be more worthwhile, more worth my time, my feedback, and all these sorts of things. And in very much the same way, I also feel that I think solving representation issues is something that I would rather do by investing it into a game that sort of has that as its focus. And by implication, what I'm saying is don't give your support to Genshin, give it to other legitimate games that do focus on this. And I think that would put you at a better ease of mind when it comes to this than just supporting HoYoverse and then complaining that they don't do the very thing that you want because they're in any case not going to do it because of profit motives and so on. So that is my entire take on it. Should Genshin have more representative characters? I can honestly not see any problem with it. I'm used to games where you've got a diverse set of characters. I really couldn't care. It's all for me, like I said with Tusanelli, it's all about the actual gameplay. I don't care really about what skin you put on a character or what the character represents, if it's an African culture or any other culture. It's really it's for me, all those things are secondary to the actual gameplay experience. But if I want to support something explicitly where the number one target is not the gameplay but how it sort of represents people, then I would rather put my money towards those causes in any case than trying to sort of find it in a video game. That's just my kind of perspective. I just think it's a much more constructive perspective than just continuously blaming and not getting anywhere. So that is my feelings about it. So yeah, the leaks in Genshin Impact definitely ripped open a lot of wounds, not just from representation, but from many other aspects and avenues as well. I do think there are better ways where HoYoverse could control leaks. So for instance, you know, have players that spend a lot of time and effort into your game, that give you a lot of constant feedback, give them priority access to beta, unlike some random people that will just sort of dump it all on GitHub and then it's immediately leaked. I mean, just a thought, HoYoverse. But in any case, it's their game, they'll manage it, and if you don't agree, like I certainly don't agree with a lot of the things that they do, then just withdrawing your support gradually, I think, is probably the better step to do, because there are many more other games out there that can give you what you want, let's be honest. So yeah, that's my feeling. All the leakers are scumbags, sorry, I just have no sympathy for them. And yeah, Sumeru spoiled. Not much more to say than that. Thanks for watching. Cheers.